great idea, Kelly.
No, I probably had something else, but I'll just go.
Jude, I think you're up.
Regarding to the comments, well, multiple comments, I think the anchoring source to this committee and all committees should be the strategic plan. That was created and developed by the community, for the community. The executive team, district board was fully involved. And that should always be an anchoring. It's a living document. So whether we section off that talent and engagement, we need to then, my assumption, anchor on that, because that's the vision and mission. I mean, that's the idea that was created, and then flush out those items. And the reason district board members are important is because that's how policy happens, right? Policy happens when there's engagement between a collective group like this, where you have management, frontline, and that's the beauty of it, I think, where we can capitalize on a committee such as this, right? Is this visual aspect and really getting all parties to work together as a collective group with a common mission. It's actually practicing what a community hospital is about. And within that, those talents and the recruitment or engagement, we can annually, say, hey, for 2024, we're going to focus on 2 items or 3 items. And as a collective group, figure out whether it's a survey, that's going to be our anchoring for this year, and X, Y, and Z. So it keeps it in that forward momentum. And as Steve says, and I'm quoting him, it's measurable, right? And we're reaching our goal, because that's a key thing that I've heard multiple times. How can we measure the work that we're doing? And I think it gives us that balance and collective awareness, different lens perspective from all of us, and ultimately comes up in conversations in our district board meetings. And that's how we all have that policy. You want people to be at the table.
Sure, Nancy.
Yeah, to answer the question about, is it relevant to have board members district with this group? Because you're right, we're going to have this great survey, we'll get a lot of data, we can all put together, we're capable of action plans based on what the employees in the hospital say. But I look at it as, this hospital's been through hell and back the last 20 years, right? All the changes of leadership and a lot of, and I think, when Steve spoke we had employee town halls this week, and he talked about rebuilding trust. Now that we are back to the roots, we're back to being nonprofit, owned by the community, we have to start anew. So, and I think it is really important to have board members and employees in direct connection. That this committee, to me, feels like a nice, direct conduit between staff and the board members. And whether, I happen to be a director, but I'm an employee just like anybody else, right? And I like the idea of being out of our own titles and roles in this room, to just speak frankly, as employees. We all have, that sense of wanting to be part of this renewal of this hospital. So anyway, I really feel like it is important to have a direct line. I think this community can bring real value, because when you're all at the board meeting thinking at this high level, and even beyond the hospital, out in the district, you have maybe the in your ear the voice of employees. So that's how I see this committee as a nice conduit. And also with the data, I think we can really do great things. From my own selfish standpoint, I do a lot of internal communications, and so I'm hoping that this group will drive some of those things, like from all the fun things we do, like Halloween, to the real meaningful things like Holiday Hope. That rather than us just sitting in a room thinking, what can we do to keep people excited and have this place be a fun place to work, because we all deal with life and death every day. To have this, committee really drive it in an organized way with real goals based on the data from employees.
Any other comments?
The quarterly meeting makes it really, I mean, I forget what
Yeah.
happened at the last
Same.
meeting. And, yeah, and even looking at the notes, like, it was still hard to refresh my recollection, and then, like. 6 months ago now. Yeah, so, or 4, I think, August. I would agree that,
Thanks. As interim chair, or acting chair, I'll digest all of that and see what my thoughts are. I have one immediate sort of comment. I'd already written to Steve about the idea, my thoughts about the idea of surveys. When I see surveys that say, I love my job, agree or disagree, they just infuriate me. So my proposal to him was to make them neutral. How satisfied are you with your job? Very or not very, so sort of what we see.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you on that. I agree with you on that.
My comment would be not to have a lot of surveys. Because the more surveys, it's like another survey, you know, we don't wanna fill it out. And then make it completely different and make sure that it's acknowledged that it's different than, we've had yearly surveys that we fill out about, we do have those yearly surveys about our job or this or that, and people just don't even fill them out usually, or they're like, well, we don't care, nobody cares, but this would be, you know, maybe emphasize it's a different kind of survey that is coming from this committee, that we really wanna know engagement and say, you know. Because
Also that there's, because I think how many surveys over the years have we all filled out? It's like, again, I've already said that.
Exactly.
Why are they asking me again? Because there's never anything that comes from it. And so the action, yes.
Yeah, precisely, that's,
Depends on how your day is going when you go out.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm, you know, trying to get this out, 'cause it's the last day, but I don't wanna have overtime. Yeah. And you're frustrated, sometimes the answers that you give might, you know, wonder how much the results sometimes, you know, are you really getting actual results during, like, a busy COVID time? Right. Something like that. Yeah. So that might be real. Yeah, real. And that's true, But I wonder if there's like is there a different process to giving out surveys besides, you know, it's in your email or a survey monkey? I mean, I don't even know when the most convenient time or the easiest when you're, you know, thinking about the things so you give good answers. I should actually follow up just a little bit on this. I think that it will feel very different as are working with a group, and so just it gives us our incentive to really make sure that we all commit to doing this Beta Heart program is that if we meet all of their objectives, they give us 10% off of our premiums, which I hold workers' comp. I don't know what the general liability premium, but it's $1 million a year. It's $100,000 in savings if we follow through with everything they request of us, which would be after your survey data, they actually work with a team that help you say, here's your areas where you're doing great, you're doing fine, and you need to improve on these areas. How are you going to improve on them? Say you have a team, and then what are your action steps, and then did you resolve them? And then you don't get your discounted rate until all of those things are accomplished, and proof that you showed all of the employees that you went through those steps and that you had results. So I think that like the culture of safety survey and some of those things that we do here will have more than just here's the survey. There will be, okay, on this date we're going to follow up with what things, like here's what the survey data was. Here's what we're going to do about it, and here's what we did. So
Beta B-E-T-A, Heart?
Beta Heart. And I'm really excited about it. We just did like a meeting with them, but I think everyone in this room will serve on it in some way because there's stakeholder groups and things like that will be put together. But and then one other thing I was going to say about the survey. Oh, and
the culture of safety survey that was done last year that had a lot of areas of needs improvement. Lucy and Sherry are right now working with all of the nurse directors and managers in the clinical unit, on action items on areas that they had to have improvement, and then meet with their staff about how they're gonna improve it. So they are doing that from last year's survey right now. For action following the survey. But trying to figure out how to kind of weave in this group to that kind of information is,
I'd like to comment back about a couple of things. In years past, in the for-profit world, they treated morale as an independent variable. The board or the administration would do some horrible thing, and then 2 agenda items down, it was like, wow, morale's really bad, I wonder why. So I'd like to see us not make that mistake repeatedly. The other is, I understand that measure things to know if what we're doing is working. I think there are things that you just can't measure that are important. But we don't know how to measure yet. So I wouldn't want to see us overlook those other items or... Well, thanks, everybody.
Director Gallagher, sorry,
Yep.
Chair. Interim Chair, before we move on, can I do a quick roll that we did not do at the very beginning?
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Joseph Gallagher?
Yep.
Marcus Pimentel?
Yep.
Allison Hawk? Here. June Ponce?
Here.
Anna Ancon? Here. Elizabeth Smolovitz?
Here.
Carol Kulik? Chris Flores? Kelly Strickling? And Nancy, are you?
I'm not officially a member. I don't know if I can become one. I would love to be a member of this group, but I'm an observer, or I'm an audience member, I guess, because I think you guys all started before I started in tech. So.
I just got a text from Carol Kulik that she's in horrendous traffic, and she apologizes.
Thank you. We will come back to Nancy's appointment later.
In terms of digesting all this information, put it out to us before, I don't think we can have the process before the Wednesday after next. To talk about our scope and work plan and potential chairs. But I would like to, and Rosalie, tell me if this is workable, if we can do this by email. No, we can't. It's a Brown meeting. It's a blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We need to do it next time. All right. It's going to go slow.
So then with that being said though, and with Allison's comment on more frequent meetings, do we want to address the frequency now to?
I would propose every other.
Can I put something out there just to talk about this? So, I don't know that we have to be a Brown Act committee. We have 2 board members, and you could be an ad hoc committee. So, if this committee structure doesn't lend itself well, and I do think also that the oath and everything was a little bit like, oh, this is a bigger deal than I thought for some people. So, what am I gonna get myself into? Even the quorum requirements, like even if we have 12 people, that doesn't mean we can't get things done if only 6 people show up, right? So is a possibility, we'd have to amend the bylaws, but I was just gonna put out there that could we talk about having this be an ad hoc committee? That's better.
Yeah, I think anything we can do, this type of thing, to reduce the governance of it,
Yeah,
I mean, comments, it's just
right.
friction that our board meetings already have.
And I see it for the finance committee, because we want transparency, and there's like, but I feel like for this committee, we want people to feel more welcome, and I think bureaucracy makes people.
We'll need to amend the bylaws for that, but.
The question I have that I need to find an answer to is if an ad hoc committee would spin out of this committee, another layer down, right? So this committee would stand and an ad hoc committee would be formed versus changing it.
That's the potential.
Could it work that it's just an ad hoc committee
That's
of the
the other
board?
option. I will
Distinct,
research that.
Then the 2-tier thing gets confusing. Is this the board or the ad hoc?
Yeah.
And I wanted to check in, again, process standpoint, Rosie. We have an agenda as this, we identify something we want to add to our next agenda.
For next time.
And to respect the process.
Yep.
Let's not go too deep on this topic. And we can all do something we want to pursue.
comment or discussion about scope and work plan?
And for process, have we? So, are
We
you
went out
making
of
the
order.
comment for committee members? Oh, okay, so you were number 2, and that's fine.
Number 2, we'll go back to number 1.
I need help today, sorry.
No, right.
No worries with the date.
So we took number 2 as our first.
I did.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
I hear none. Anybody on? No.
I just have can I ask a question on that scope and work plan? So what is the next step now that, like, this committee has discussed it? Will someone draft a work plan? You will, okay.
I think that's my job, to
Okay.
draft the draft work plan and
Gotcha.
bring it back to us at the next meeting
Okay.
with some proposals. And, let me see if I'm able to communicate, show the draft before the next meeting. How do I do that for input, for comment
So
and
you can-
discussion?
Go ahead.
Offer. That's you from process.
Yes.
Process. The Brown Act Committee. Might be at our next committee, we talk about that other item we can't talk about the bylaws, and we make a recommendation. So hypothetically, we consider a recommendation at our next meeting to amend the bylaws, which expands this committee, Brown Act Committee. We reconstitute something else, and I think that would create an easier process to
Good enough.
do work plans that don't have to go through agenda
Right.
process.
And then
In the meantime, we'd have to stick to bureaucratic process to do this work.
which I think in the interim would be okay for you to, with less than, right, you just can't have a quorum.
Yep.
You could have discussions one-on-one with people about your work plan, you could even have 2 people there, I believe. You just can't, but it can't be a serial meeting,
It
so
gets
that makes it
dangerous,
very
it
difficult.
gets dangerous when it's all staff, because you guys can have hallway conversations.
Yes.
Unknowingly create conflict.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to sort of go orthodox on this.
Yeah.
I've had my wrist slapped lots of
I
times.
know,
Well, that's a serial meeting. So
Yeah.
I'll wait till we kind of have another
Right.
process.
Maybe we should schedule this next meeting, because it might be a pretty quick meeting.
yeah,
We schedule the next meeting soon, and then
yeah,
we can
just,
reform
Call
it.
it special committee meeting,
Yes.
because the next one.
yeah,
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
And, when you were referring to bylaws, you were referring to the discussion, Allison, the topics you brought up about the overall bylaws for the board as a whole, correct? And
Yes,
changing that to revise the city.
the standing committee revising it.
That will be till probably end of January,
Yeah.
right? So we can meet before that to start working on a plan.
Sounds
Bring
good.
those up, okay.
When to agendize discussion on modifying the committee. So we can give that as a recommendation to the board and we can vote on it.
Prior to January meeting, yeah.
And are there, I mean, along with the scope, work plan, all that, you know, it's like, well, what is my role? What is your role? What are we supposed to do? What is the purpose of us?
Yep.
You know, goal, do we have a purpose for existing part of this, so. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
I think you do, but we don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
You do.
While we're talking about a January meeting, Wednesdays, we have, 10th, 17th, 24th are Wednesdays that don't have, a whole board meeting. I'd propose the 17th as could people look at their,
That would be best, the 24th is gonna butt up really close to the submission date for the 31st meeting, so the more time in between the better.
so the 10th would be better?
The 17th would be the latest,
Yeah.
I would suggest.
Does there, anybody have a conflict with the 17th at 4 p.m.?
No, I have to look at my house. It's probably not.
Okay, as a tentative, could we sort of float that? Thanks. All right. Back to item number 1, Employee Engagement Committee appointees discuss adding provider members. Employee engagement. I think that's a good idea. I don't have specific thoughts. I know the turnout is generally low. People get caught up in work and can't attend, and so had talked about how many for
Two providers.
providers, as in that kind of provider.
Yes.
Okay.
It's in the committee bylaws, that we
Excellent.
have 2 providers. 2
do we don't have any?
Don't, and we did brainstorm a long time ago, and Lisa now has the on who we thought would be good for this committee. I being in human resources, employee focused, I don't know enough providers, but, I thought it would be good for us to just have that discussion here. And then, for those of you with those, the other thing too is like, is it too early to engage providers, since like you were just saying, what is my purpose? I wanna wait till we know what our purpose is.
I would recommend that, let's not get into documenting in the minutes,
Yeah,
form, again,
yeah,
can't. I think
Yeah, yeah,
I prefer you guys off, you know, in your spaces to come up with suggestions.
I think it makes sense to defer till we're a little more defined and go from there. That was an easy one.
yeah.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
So, and these minutes are also action items, aside from general topics of discussion, so if you were to discuss some providers, that will not be in the minutes.
Okay. I think this makes sense to leave that item number 1 there. Have about 20 minutes of time. We sort of check in as to sort of go around the table and check in where things are in terms of your job, what's working well, and what do you think? I assume I can make that an item number 3 as the chair, as the
I'd
acting
also
chair.
adjourn and still just have this
Conversation. I love that idea. I move adjournment. I don't need a motion for that.
Good thing we have Marcus here.
Yeah.
Keep us in line.
You can do so many of these.
For adjourn, I love this, like, really, like, let's get rid of this bureaucracy, poor Rosie has to do all this work. And
The
no
effort
way to-
behind all
Yeah.
this.
I know.
So then, rather than 2 formal questions, I might say, how's it going? As the starter. Anybody who wants to start doesn't need to be in order.
The 2 questions, repeat them again?
The 2 questions were, what's going well in your job? And the second question is, what needs to be improved?